I was killed instantly in a car accident, and my husband and sister cried until they fainted at the funeral home. Everyone thought they were deeply emotional about me. That night, they sweetly moved into the matrimonial home that I had paid for in full. My sister loved to steal rubbish from me since she was a child. Reborn on the day of the engagement, I shoved her favorite rubbish back at her. Zhao Mingyuan and I have been married for 4 years. He was born in the countryside, his family was penniless, and he was able to leap into today's newest businessman without the financial support of my family. I was in love with him and gave up my career to work for him. He was a hardworking and motivated person, and he pleased my father by revealing the company's core technology to him. In the first year of marriage, he was a bit cold to me, not responding to everything as he did when we were in love. He said he wanted to work hard on his career in order to be worthy of me. I understood. The second year of marriage, his mobile phone changed the lock screen password. WeChat also began to appear ambiguous greetings. He said I think too much, he only has me in mind. I believe. The third year of marriage, the company's development is in trouble. He began to drink, domestic violence. After waking up, he cried and said, he is just too much pressure, in order to let me live a better life. I was silent. In the fourth year of marriage, he got the stake of Lin's group. He did not pretend, all day in and out of the place of sound and color, and did not come home at night. This time it was even more outrageous. As soon as I died, he brought back my father's illegitimate daughter, Lin Yuan. She proudly stepped on my high-fashion gown and said, sister's taste, it's nothing more than that. Lin Yuan, your taste is even worse. Why else would you grab and take over the rubbish I don't want? I was born again, on the day I got engaged to Zhao Mingyuan. He was dressed in a high-class suit that he couldn't afford in his next life or the next, and he was glowing red from the overpriced wine he drank. In front of a crowd of business celebrities, he said with all sincerity that he would respect and care for me for the rest of my life. In my previous life, I was touched beyond words, and later learned that the persona of a loving wife was only one of the means by which he solicited investment. This time, I was unwilling to take a back seat and took the opportunity to get acquainted with my parents' old friends. Zhao Mingyuan thoughtfully advised me, Canran, you've worked hard today, I'll take care of the guests, you go back to your room and rest first. In my previous life, Zhao Mingyuan was under the guise of doing what was best for me, so that I could alienate my family's connections. He gathered people's hearts and took their place. So much so that in the end, I was forced to clean house and they all stood by and watched. I smiled and said, no hard work, these uncles and aunts are all old friends of my dad's and have watched me grow up since I was a child. On such an important day as the engagement, of course I have to treat them well, I said with a smile. Zhao Mingyuan came from a poor background and knew nothing about the topics we were chatting about. As he watched me nimbly weave through the crowd, I was having a great time talking to the bigwigs in the business world. He could only accompany them with a smile on his face, unable to get a word in. At the end of the laugh, the corners of the mouth are laughing stiff. Heh, who do you think brought you your later glory and wealth? Halfway through the engagement party, Lin Yuan also mixed into the scene. The dress she wore was even more exaggerated than mine, afraid that others would not see that she wanted to be the main character. Lin Yuan stood on the stage and said in a dignified manner, although my sister has a bad temper and always fights with and upsets my father at home, she has finally found her home. I'm sincerely happy for her, and I also hope that my sister, Lin Canran, will be happy. There was a lot of talk on the stage. Who is this? How come I didn't know old Lin had a daughter? My dad did a good job of keeping it a secret, and although he treated Lin Yuan better than me in private, he didn't reveal a single word to the outside world. He knew how to keep his face. But Lin Yuan was shameless and wanted to reveal her identity to the world whenever she had the chance. The uncle who knew me well around me asked me, Chanran, who is she? In my previous life, my father morally kidnapped my mother to save face and publicly recognized this daughter. Later, Lin Yuan rightfully took over the company and inherited his entire estate. This time, I grabbed the microphone first. I'm not sure who she is. Security guards, please check this lady's invitation letter, and don't let any uninvited people in. Invitation letter, Of course she doesn't have one. But she was the best at playing poor. Zhao Mingyuan couldn't stand it and rushed up to stop the security guard. The visitor is a guest. Since Yuan is here to give her blessings, we'll let her stay. Delivering blessings? I don't think so. He looked at me with pleading eyes, plus Lin Yuan's pitiful look. If I don't agree, I'll really be accused of having a bad temper. Jiang Yu, who was watching from the sidelines, suddenly opened his mouth and said, calling him quite closely, "Did you find him?" Zhao Mingyuan was caught in midair by these words. If he said no, Lin Yuan would probably be thrown out in public. But if he said yes, it would show that he didn't know how to be polite and had found someone to talk nonsense, and secondly, it would show that he didn't have much of a position in the Lin family and couldn't even give a formal invitation. This son-in-law of the Lin family really can't hold his own, and he dares to let anyone come in and cause trouble on such an important occasion. If you ask me, you should get married to someone from the right family, so that the rules won't be broken by people who don't have the proper etiquette. A few aunts said that their daughters will definitely not look for this kind of small family to get married in the future. Zhao Mingyuan's face turned red. As the saying goes, the more you lack, the more you care. Zhao Mingyuan disliked his own origin and didn't call any of his relatives at the engagement party for fear that they would make a fool of themselves. But now it is still being grabbed by the pigtails. I know he's so angry he's about to explode, but he can't, he still has to please me. Only by marrying me can he get our family's property and shares. Zhao Mingyuan maintained a decent smile. Sorry to bother you all, I'll see this young lady out first. Jiang Yu blocked his way and asked carelessly, you haven't said it yet, who is she to you? How could you leave your fiancée behind to send her out? Jiang Yu is tall, broad shoulders and long legs, standing in front of the thin Zhao Mingyuan, the contrast is even more distinct. Directly Zhao Mingyuan hero to save the beauty bravado aura suppressed. At this time, the discussion was even more intense. The uncles and aunts were naturally all in my favor, accusing Zhao Mingyuan of not having left me out in the cold. They also looked at Lin Yuan with strange eyes, blaming her for being the spoiler. Lin Yuan glared fiercely at me. Then immediately changed her look and pitifully sought help from my dad. She was better than me at being petulant, better than me at acting pitiful. My dad was biased and never favored her. If there was only one toy, it was hers. If there were two of them, she would purposely break the one she had and the other one would still be hers. But she forgot that my dad has always been the most facetious, and admitting to her at a time like this is tantamount to revealing his own cheating past. My dad closed his eyes and waved his hand, security guards, why don't you take the person away? Lin Yuan was dragged out of the gate with disbelief written all over her face. That night, Zhao Mingyuan didn't come home with me. He said he got drunk and threw up all over himself and didn't want to dirty the carpet at home. In the end, it was just because of Lin Yuan's text message, brother-in-law, why is my sister doing this to me? I'm so sad. In the past, when we were in love, as long as I frowned, he could not wait to hold me in his hands. Today, I want him to give an explanation, but he only finds excuses to comfort Lin Yuan. Could it be that only those who can be pampered can be seen with wounds? I let out a cold laugh and sat in Jiang Yu's supercar parked outside the door. Jiang Yu took the initiative to help me fasten my seatbelt. A handsome face came up to me and asked nicely, Sister, where are we going now? Jiang Yu is the younger brother of my best friend, who said before she left to study abroad that she would give him to me and leave him at my disposal. I just thought it was a polite remark. But now, I need his help. I didn't look away. Love Hotel. Zhao Mingyuan and Lin Yuan's regular rendezvous spot. Jiang Yu pretended to be shy. Sister want to play so exciting? After being beaten by me, he obediently drove the car to the hotel. This is Jiang Yu's brother's name of the property. With his help, we easily entered the monitoring room. It didn't take long for Zhao Mingyuan and Lin Yuan to appear on the monitor. Those two were entangled like twine, twisting into the upstairs room from the hotel lobby. Room No. I immediately dialed, Comrade Police, I'm reporting a prostitute in hotel room 8303. The next day, the city knew that Zhao Mingyuan was soliciting prostitutes at the Love Hotel on the night of his engagement. However, who knew about a small person like Zhao Mingyuan? So, the first item on the same city's hot search was Lin Group's son-in-law-to-be visited prostitutes. The accompanying picture was Zhao Mingyuan and Lin Yuanyuan being arrested in front of the Love Hotel and put into a police car. Thanks to that reporter friend who took a clear picture of the two's front faces. Immediately, some people commented underneath, the Lin family's eldest daughter has such poor eyesight, how could she even look at this kind of man? No wonder the Lin family has been going downhill for the past few years. I was there on the day of the engagement, and that prostitute danced in front of the main man. Upstairs, I was there yesterday, she even called Kinran her sister, she really thinks she has a harem. My dad read the comments and his face was furious. But he spoke at me, kneel down. My dad hated me, how could I teach a daughter like you? In my previous life, I was too eager for my father's love and obeyed my dad's words unconditionally. Even if it wasn't my fault, I didn't dare to talk back and could only suffer in silence. This time, I was resolute, I'm not kneeling, you should say this to Lin Yuanyuan. I'm also curious as to how you could have a daughter as indiscreet as her. My father was so angry that he copped a ruler and hit me. Luckily, I was prepared and dodged a bullet. Lin Yuanyuan reddened her eyes and sobbed, Sister, I don't know why you always target me. Yesterday, I just wanted to congratulate you on finding happiness, but you wanted to blow me out. My brother-in-law saw that I was pitiful, so he came to comfort me in person. You called the police. Have you considered the reputation of our Lin family? Considered how much Dad has paid for the Lin family? Who would comfort his sister-in-law to a love hotel? The reasoning was obvious, just as my dad's favoritism was obvious. My dad let out some harsh words, Lin Canran, either kneel down and apologize, or be grounded for a month, and in the future, all your pocket money will go to Yuanyuan's account as compensation. His bodyguards were ready as if they were going to drag me into the room next. Who dares to make my daughter kneel down and apologize? My mom had already bought a ticket for a trip abroad and killed her way back from the airport after reading the news. My mom has only one precious daughter. She was blinded by Zhao Mingyuan in her previous life, so she was relieved to give me to him. Now that she saw Zhao Mingyuan's true colors, she naturally couldn't let him go. My dad is ostensibly a group boss, but the financial power of the family is in my mom's hands. When my dad saw this, his attitude immediately softened. Wife, don't misunderstand. I just want to educate Kinran that family scandals should not be spread outside the family, I'm not really asking her to kneel down. My mom snorted coldly and said, Who's the family scandal here? She looked towards Lin Yuanyuan, your illegitimate daughter? Then she pointed at Zhao Mingyuan, or this ladybird? You can't handle these two scourges, and you dare to educate my daughter? My dad knew he was in the wrong and didn't even dare to let out a big breath. Zhao Mingyuan was afraid of missing the chance to join the family, so he knelt down in front of my mom with a thud. Auntie, I really don't know, it's all because Lin Yuanyuan deliberately called me over to seduce me, I only have Kinran in my heart. Lin Yuanyuan stared with wide eyes, unable to believe that Zhao Mingyuan had betrayed him just like that. To this kind of bullshit, of course, my mother scolded back with a split face. In the end, in order to stabilize Lin Group's share price, my dad had to pay out of his own pocket to suppress the black hot search. The labels Zhao Mingyuan apologized and dissolution of engagement were brought up again. Zhao Mingyuan got a huge amount of hush money and immediately took the fault on himself and later sold the misery saying that he had depression and was sorry for me. Unfortunately, no one forgave him in the comments section, which was full of abuse. This also triggered a flurry of discussion among netizens about Lin Yuanyuan. I heard that she was always recognized when she went out during that time, and she was often asked how much for a night. After the dissolution of the engagement, Jiang Yu came to me more frequently. It's not that I didn't know how he felt, it's just that I had more important things to do. I'm currently pursuing my doctorate in medicine, and Zhao Mingyuan was my classmate during my master's degree. In my previous life, he used flowery words to get me to give up my studies and return to my family. But he himself stole the medical project that my fellow students and I had been researching for years. In order to seek profits, he didn't wait to overcome the last technical hurdle before hastily putting the medicine on the market and making a fortune. Because of the serious side effects of the medicine, a large number of patients were incapacitated. Zhao Mingyuan just suppressed the wind and continued to make money. Until finally the paper couldn't hold fire, only then did he push me out to block the knife. Back at this point, Zhao Mingyuan had used my trust to secretly copy away the research data long before the engagement. And in order to make it up to Lin Yuan, my dad just happened to give her the pharmaceutical industry that he had privately invested in. I need to rush to complete this research at an accelerated pace before the drug hits the market. It was another late night, and I tiredly walked out of the lab. Jiang Yu's car was still parked outside, as it had been for 2 months in a row. As late as I left, he waited until as late as he could. As soon as he saw me, he opened the car door and got out, handing me a cup of hot cocoa. "Good work, Dr. Lin." I clinked my cup with him. "You've worked hard too, you don't have to wait for me every day." Jiang Yu pretended to be serious. "Who says I'm waiting for you? I'm waiting for a medical miracle in the history of mankind." We smiled at each other and leaned against the car, watching the first snowfall of the year together. Because of the previous public opinion attacks, Zhao Mingyuan repeatedly hit a wall in business negotiations. The pharmaceutical industry was in bad shape in his hands. He began to drink like a madman and even committed acts of domestic violence. Lin Yuan was beaten so badly that she didn't dare to go out for a long time. In the end, the neighbors couldn't stand it and helped to report the case to the police. When Lin Yuan and Zhao Mingyuan were brought to the police station, I happened to be at the police station to report the case. Recently, experimental equipment has been stolen all the time, and I don't want to waste all my funds on such trivial matters. The police patiently asked, "Little girl, the injuries on your body, did your boyfriend beat you up?" Lin Yuan saw me and bit out, "No, my boyfriend loves me very much, he wouldn't hit me." She had managed to snatch Zhao Mingyuan from me with great difficulty, so of course she wanted to show off. How could she be willing to admit that there was a problem between them? The policeman asked again, "Then what happened to the injuries on your face and arm?" Lin Yuan said, "I fell down accidentally, it has nothing to do with my boyfriend." After a dozen times of repeated questioning, Lin Yuan gave the same answer, so the police had to let them go back. The police officer who helped me file the case wondered, "The girl's injuries are obviously from being beaten up, why does she still insist on speaking up for her boyfriend?" I smiled and said, "Maybe love can stop the pain." With the expertise and tacit understanding of my fellow students and me, we completed the research and development a year ahead of schedule. All we need to do is wait for the drug to pass clinical trials, and it will be successfully marketed. Zhao Mingyuan, not knowing where he got the information, also sped up, even skipped the clinical studies and got the drug on the market first. I approached Zhao Mingyuan privately and advised him to pay attention to clinical research and not to joke with patients' lives. Zhao Mingyuan said, "I hired a team of experts who are many times more powerful than a non-graduate doctorate, and when I say there is no problem with the drug, there is no problem." Perhaps the people in Zhao Mingyuan's team were too eager to make profits, and the side effects of the drug this time were even greater than in the previous life. Some of the first batch of patients who bought the drug were paralyzed, and some even faced amputation. The patients' families were very emotional and went downstairs to the pharmaceuticals to cause trouble, holding banners and waving white flags. The medicines in the pharmacy with the word pharmaceutical printed on them were smashed to pieces. They waited for Zhao Mingyuan and Lin Yuan to come out, and then rushed to the pharmacy with rotten eggs and vegetable leaves in their hands. There were also a few strong men who directly pressed Zhao Mingyuan to the ground and beat him. The security guards couldn't even stop them. Lin Yuan's eyes were sharp, pointing at me who was passing by, shouting, "The medicine was developed by Lin Canran, if you want to find trouble, go to her." The patient's family saw me but hesitated. The day before Zhao Mingyuan put the drug on the market, my fellow students and I issued a public statement in the name of the school. "Please be patient, we strive to provide you with safe and effective medicines by next year. Our school university has a great appeal in the area, and those who are concerned about this rare disease all know my mentor, the industry's big bully." Naturally, they would not miss the dynamic that my fellow students and I posted online. It is also because of this dynamic that the number of people suffering from the drug is much less than in the previous life. Everyone knows that the drugs researched by public medical schools are much more reliable than those of capitalist teams. A woman with gray hair suddenly broke down and fell to the ground bawling, "If only my husband and son had waited for you guys." They fell prey to these black-hearted people in order to recover earlier and move bricks for a few more days to earn money to go back home for the new year. Now my husband is dead and my son is lying on the bed. He can't even move. What can I do? Zhao Mingyuan and Lin Yuanyuan were too scared to move. In the end, my father's secretary came to settle the matter, promising to compensate for all the funeral expenses, follow-up treatment costs, and moral damages before most of the family members were sent away. There were some that hadn't left yet, and they didn't make a scene, but just silently wiped their tears in the corners. I was unwilling to linger any longer. Lin Yuanyuan, however, ran to stop me and said unwillingly, "Did you purposely give Brother Mingyuan the wrong data? He just doesn't love you anymore. Why do you have to use such means to get back at him and indirectly harm so many people?" Zhao Mingyuan immediately changed his face. "Lin Canran, I've never seen a woman as vicious as you." That night, the news made a big deal of it. Lin's group's daughter took revenge on her former lover, causing 10,000 innocent patients to be paralyzed overnight. I had expected them to backtrack. The next morning, I immediately held a press conference. The reporter's question was incredibly sharp. "Miss Lin, did you deliberately sell the fake data to the pharmaceutical industry in order to get back at your ex-fiancé?" "Miss Lin, so many people have been paralyzed because of your actions. What do you think?" "Miss Lin, I heard that the research lab you work for is going to launch a similar drug next year. Is this a vicious competition?" Facing the blackened microphones and cameras, I said unperturbed, "Our lab's research only came to fruition in the first half of this year, and we are currently conducting clinical trials. And pharmaceuticals drug was launched last month. Their progress is far ahead of our lab. Take a step back. Even if I gave pharmaceutical the wrong data, how did they pass the clinical study? In terms of the current disability rate, the pharmaceutical industry's drug clearly fails to meet the national listing standards. May I ask, Mr. Zhao Mingyuan, do you dare to disclose the results of your clinical trials?" Zhao Mingyuan's face was pale. He had not done any clinical studies at all in order to get the drug on the market faster and grab market share. Instead, he got someone to make a fake report. Once this report was made public, it was a joke. I continued, "As for vicious competition, there is even less to talk about. My fellow disciples and I have been researching intensely for many years under the tutelage of our mentor, in order to cure more patients, never to seek profit. In the name of Lin's group, I promise that when the drug hits the market next year, the price will definitely be lower than 1/3 of the pharmaceutical industry's pricing." In the live broadcast room, the comment section is full of excited messages from patients and family members. I knew it. Trusting a big medical school is definitely the right thing to do. This is the real hangman. This is the real famous doctor who can help the world. Those capitalists are far from it. This time, I didn't have to do anything, but the patient's family already called the police. The police arrested Zhao Mingyuan on suspicion of obstructing drug control and intentional injury. Zhao Mingyuan asked to see me many times. He said that as long as he saw me, he would confess to everything. I didn't want to make things difficult for the little policeman who came to deliver the message, so I went there myself. Zhao Mingyuan reminisced a lot about our love period. In a sudden rainstorm, he rushed to the door of the laboratory to give me an umbrella, but he himself was drenched like a drenched chicken. During the National Day holiday, he sent out flyers for 7 days under the scorching sun in order to buy me a decent birthday present. He looked at me expectantly. "If you were to do it all over again, would you still be willing to give me a chance?" I said categorically, "No way." It was precisely because I had to do it all over again that I was able to appreciate Zhao Mingyuan's scum more fully. He let out a self-deprecating laugh. "Have you always looked down on me for not having money and being poor? I worked so hard to earn money so that you and your family would look down on me." I shook my head. "I knew about your family's situation from the beginning of our relationship, but I still agreed to your pursuit and seriously thought about marrying you. People can't choose where they come from, and I was just a little luckier than you when I was reincarnated." You got your master's degree through your own efforts, you are smart and motivated, and as long as you follow the right path, you will definitely have a bright future. But I didn't expect you to cheat on Lin Yuan, and I didn't expect you to kill people like this. Seeing that I was about to leave, Zhao Mingyuan hurriedly grabbed my hand and begged bitterly, I was wrong Chanran, I was momentarily obsessed, I will never do this again. Please beg your mom and your grandpa, I know they are the major shareholders of Lin's group, they can surely handle this kind of small matter. TSK, it is really easy to change rivers and mountains, but the nature can't change. I immediately called the prison guards and reported him for one more theft offense. He thought he was just stealing a few items of experimental data, but in reality it was not that simple. For the sake of my mentor's face, this experiment of various pharmaceutical companies invested hundreds of millions of dollars, just a few data can make him lose all his trousers. When my mother heard about it, she felt very relieved. Fortunately, my baby girl had her eyes peeled and didn't get together with that Zhao Mingyuan, who, like your father, is not a good thing. I originally thought that my parents loved each other and that Lin Yuan's birth was just an accident. I didn't know until now that my dad had been in contact with Lin Yuan's mother all these years, and had privately transferred a lot of property to the two of them. My mom and dad's marriage has long existed in name only. My father was originally a poor boy, borrowed my grandfather's funds and contacts to support before making a fortune. But my grandfather had a good idea and kept most of the shares of Lin's group in his own hands. My mom could have kicked my dad out at any time and only indulged him in his outside debauchery in order for me to have a complete family. In my previous life, I was only obsessed with whether my dad loved me or Lin Yuan more, but ignored the fact that my mom was the one who loved me the most. I held my mom's hands. Mom, I've grown up, I don't need you to bend over backwards for me anymore. Dad has done so many things to wrong you, you have the right to divorce him and pursue your own happiness. With the support of my grandfather and I, my mom and dad got a divorce. My dad cheated on me for many years within the marriage and had an illegitimate daughter. According to the marital fidelity agreement that my dad signed in order to coax my mom and grandpa into marriage, the court awarded my dad very little property, not even enough to cover 1/10 of Zhao Mingyuan's compensation. On the day he received the judgment, my dad watched in dismay as the furniture was emptied bit by bit. The house wasn't reserved for him, my mom thought it was bad luck and planned to sell it. When he saw me, his eyes lit up. Ran, you're here, you won't let Dad not have a big house to live in, right? I said, Dad, don't worry, if I have 2 houses, one will be my mom's and the other will still be my mom's. For your house, go ask Lin Yuan and her mom for it. He's just over 50 and his hair is already gray. He has lost his business-like aura, and looks like an ordinary empty-nested old man. He said with trembling lips, Yuan disappeared. I remembered when I was a child, my father took me and Lin Yuan to the amusement park. I fell, so I watched as they walked further and further away from each other. A kind person picked me up and asked me, who brought you here? Where are your mom and dad? My eyes were misty with tears. Dad is gone. Lin Yuan is certainly gone. Without my dad and Zhao Mingyuan as her backers, she has taken on a new big spender and is trying her best to keep a distance from these two. She was afraid that my dad would ask her for the money he originally gave her, and she was also afraid of getting involved with someone like Zhao Mingyuan, who has a criminal record. We met again at the launch of our lab's new drug. This day was also the day Zhao Mingyuan was sent to prison. Lin Yuan was holding the big money's hand, smiling like a cocklebur flower. The big money should be a very rich big money, the kind that looks even richer than my dad did back then. Otherwise, it was hard to imagine that she would be wearing such a bright and flattering smile. When she saw me, she even greeted me, revealing the high-fashion Chanel around her neck and the old Hermes in her hand from a few years ago. Sister, long time no see. After my parents divorced, Lin's group gradually declined. It looks like the building is about to fall, but in reality, it's just that my mom isn't happy to continue operating under the name Lin's and is gradually withdrawing her capital with the intention of reinvesting abroad. Lin Yuan looked at the plain white coat on my body and said in a conspiratorial manner, "Sister, it's not good to just know how to bury your head in the sand and do research, but you're not making any money by selling this medicine at a low price. If you can find a good and reliable man, you will be able to live and work without worries for the rest of your life." I said frankly, low price is not the same as cheap. Curing more patients is the value of medical research, and if making money is the first goal, the development of the medical profession will be in jeopardy. Lin Yuan scoffed. The big money had been climbing with my mentor, and when he heard my words, he excitedly shook my hand, and what few bangs he had left on his forehead fluttered. "With young people like you in the medical field, the future is immeasurable." I was already used to such compliments. Jiang Yu frowned and pushed his hand away from mine. When the big money man saw Jiang Yu, he was even more surprised and nodded to him. "Why is Mr. Jiang here too?" Then he turned his head to introduce to Lin Yuan, "This is Mr. Jiang, the only son of the chairman of the group, our company's key cooperation object." Jiang Yu took me by the waist and declared his sovereignty. "I'm here to see my girlfriend. Ever since I agreed to go out with him, he's been dying to tell the world that I'm his girlfriend." Lin Yuan's face changed again and finally called out daintily, "Hello, Mr. Jiang." Exactly the same tone as the first time I met Zhao Mingyuan. Jiang Yu gave her a disgusted look. "Do you have phlegm stuck in your throat? Your voice is awful." I heard from my sister in the lab that the reason the big money was so enthusiastic about our team that day was because his only son suffers from some kind of rare disease. He was paralyzed after taking the company's new drug and is now lying in a hospital bed, hanging on to his life by all kinds of expensive medicines. The big money went around seeking medical treatment and even came to the university to beg our tutor several times. Unfortunately, we only research ways to treat the rare disease itself, and we can't solve the side effects caused by other drugs. I sent the business card Lin Yuan used when she was in the pharmaceutical industry to Big Money. I heard that she was severely beaten by the big money and the big money's wife on the same day and thrown out of the house in the middle of winter with no clothes on. Later, they seemed to think that they were not yet relieved, so they brought her back to marry their son to celebrate the wedding, and she stayed in the ward to serve him as a free carer. I saw her a few times when I went to the hospital to check on the patients. The day and night drudgery made her hair yellow and her skin rough, as if she had aged 10 years. The only thing that remained the same was the resentful look in her eyes every time she looked at me. What's it got to do with me? It's just payback for payback. On the day Zhao Mingyuan was sent to prison, my mother, who was far away from home, sent me a big gift. She knew that I was not interested in the business world, so she invested in a research institute for me, so that I could continue to study after graduation. I think she wanted to tell me that a woman's career is far more important than love. Today, I have to work overtime again. My sister scowled at me. "Sister, your boyfriend came to bring you food again, so envious." I turned my head. Jiang Yu is carrying a thermos bucket, smiling at the door of the laboratory. I once seriously told him that I had my own career, and that my profession was destined to prevent me from devoting too much time to my family. He said that he was willing to support my choice, and that everyone, regardless of gender, has the right to pursue their own values in life.